Hello, my name is author Consuelo Me, and you guys know me through some books that I wrote, a cartoon that I'm working on, and also a book series that I have. And today I've been doing a series within a series. So today we're going to talk about the foster care system. And today I wanted to invite Phillip Floyd on to talk about his journey with the foster care system. And this is all based on My Blended Family, the series, because it's important for kids to understand inclusion and representation of different backgrounds, different nationalities, different disorders, disabilities, and things that other kids may not have as a part of a two-parent household. That doesn't always happen. It's considered the norm, but we're really not in a norm. So we need to create a space for kids like that. And so Philip is going to discuss today his journey with the foster care system and how he grew up. Philip, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so, first, introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do and, you know, um, what type of person you are and where you came from.
Roger that. So I'm 34 years old. I'm a father of an amazing 4-year-old son. I'm in the military. I've been in the military going on 13 years. Actually, next week will be marked 13 years that I've been in the Army, starting first class. That's what I do. I also work on the civilian sector as well. And even though I work on the civilian sector, um, I still work for the government as well on that because I'm National Guard now. I was active duty, but I'm National Guard because I'm a single father now. And so that's pretty much what I do. I was raised in foster care, started from the age of 7 years old, and I grew out of the system, what they call emancipated. And that was when I was 19.
So, explain to people what that happens, what the system actually does as far as the process goes when you turn a certain age and you're out of foster care.
So there's two ways to go about it. There's what the system's supposed to do and what the system actually does. What the system did for me was they required us to take a class every month, once a month on the weekend. And they try to teach us the basics, how to go get your first apartment, how to pay bills, how to balance your finances and so forth like that. And they just give you they point you in different directions for different resources. And that's what they did for me. But a lot of those resources were either didn't work for me or the resources were outdated. And it was something that bothered me a lot because I was looking forward to those resources. And
Hmm.
when I reached out to those organizations, they were no longer effective. And they were kind of confused. They said, well, why did they give you our information? I'm like, this is what they gave me. This is what I'm reading off the form. So in summary, they try to set you up for success. They try to point you in the right direction and try to give you the necessary resources to help you succeed.
Okay, so let me know your foster journey, how you ended up in the foster care system, and what the journey has been like for you.
So I heard bits and pieces of what actually put me in foster care, and I really don't know the truth. It's just two different things. One person says, hey, um, this happened. Another person says that, hey, your grandmother was old and she couldn't, and that's what my grandmother told me. Hey, I couldn't take care of you as well as your older siblings as well, because she was a working grandma. And it was a lot for her to deal with a 7-year-old and ensure that I was being taken care of properly while she was at work. And so she did what she had to do, and she put me in the system, but she opened it up to my biological mother to try to get me back. And my mother she did not attempt to get me back. And so that's when I started being in foster care when I was 7.
So, were you ever adopted?
So I was adopted. So my foster mother that I was first put in foster care with, she had my little sister as well. And she adopted me, I would say, when I was 11 years old, I do believe. She did adopt me when I was 11 years old, along with my little sister.
So, have you ever had any contact with your birth mother? Is she still alive?
Yes, I have had contact with my birth mother since I've been out the system yet. She's still alive. We're not
How
close.
how has that been for you?
Not great. I try to look at it in the most positive manner, but as the statement says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And so I try to have a relationship with her, but when you try to have a relationship with, well, when I try to have a relationship with my biological mother, it has to be a two-way street. You got to meet me in the middle, and she's just not willing to meet in the middle.
And so, was your dad ever in the picture? What happened to your father? Do you know who he
He
was?
was not. He was not in the picture. So when I was born, he was in prison,
Okay.
and I never met him. And by the time I did meet him, I would say 12 years old. Um, and I knew for a fact it was my father because as soon as I saw him, I'm like, yeah, that's why I looked the way I look just like him. But I was kind of not a secret, but I was a rumor to his family because they all told me it's like, well, we heard that he had another child out there, but we didn't know what the child's name was. We didn't know who the child's mother was, and they said, hey, after a while, you just dropped off the radar. We just assumed you were just a rumor, and so I never really was close to him.
So, how many siblings do you have from your birth mother?
So my birth mother has an older son and an older daughter, and then she has me, and then my little sister.
And how's your relationship with your biological siblings?
My relationship with my biological siblings, well, with my little sister is great because we were both adopted and so forth together. Um, but my older siblings, we have a good relationship, a decent relationship, not a close relationship because again, being in foster care, it kind of took away us being able to get close and know each other more. And by the time that I got out, they were already set in their ways.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a long journey for you. And so, what would you tell kids that are in the foster care system that are struggling and that, are getting to the age where they're going to be emancipated out of the system that have never been adopted? And how do you feel about the process that's going on now? So it sounds like your grandmother took you and then you were in the foster care system and got adopted out of the foster care system. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then my foster mother that adopted me, she gave me up. So she gave me up at the age of 14 years old, and I was placed back into foster care.
So, and then you stayed in foster care from 14 to 19.
Correct.
So when they do these, so I looked online and I looked into adoption and the foster care system, um, because I hope to one day be able to take that step for myself. I have two kids. My son, he'll be out of high school soon, and I would like to open my house up. I've been looking into it, and so were you ever in those settings that they have now, where they have these kids? Like a luncheon or something, and they have people that are potential foster care parents or wanna adopt. Some of these kids are walking runways and things like that, for parents to come or single parents or whomever is interested. Is that a process that you had to go through as well? And how do you feel if you didn't, how do you feel about the process now that's taking place, for the adoption and foster care system?
So when I was placed back into foster care, it was a different process. Um, so when my adoptive mother gave me up at 14, she dropped me off downtown at the courthouse and drove off, and that was that. And they had to call her to let her know that, hey, this is not the process. You just can't drop a kid off and just leave. And so they had to do a quick court session. When they did that and she relinquished her rights for me, they placed me in a holding all day in a small room that was probably the size of a walk-in closet with a TV playing a Star Wars show all day on rerun. And I didn't know anything, what was going on. I didn't know what was about to happen to me. They wouldn't tell me anything. Um, they wouldn't let me make no phone calls. They wouldn't let me walk out the room. Um, I practically felt like a hostage because, again, when I tried to walk out to go to the restroom, there was a security guard that says, "Get back in that room." And I'm just like, why am I being treated like I did something wrong? And so I was in there practically all day until another foster parent came and claimed me and stated that I guess she had received a phone call from the foster agency stating that there was a child that needed a home.
And so were you there at that particular home until you were of age, or did you were? Okay. So you did find some stability, in your later teens.
Correct.
So that's a good thing. I know a lot of kids go through, some deal with some abuse and other things in foster care. Was that your journey or your experience?
Correct. It was.
And so when you're in that position and you have a foster parent, that is abusive, are you able to, tell someone? Does a social worker or the children's services, do they ever come check on the child, get updates, anything like that? And how frequently does that happen?
So I don't know the process these days. I'm sure it's been changed a lot. Um, but when I was in foster care, we had a visit once a month where the caseworker would come and she would just see how everything was going and she would update her reports just to see if I was on track, to see what needed to be done, just to get the foster parents, I guess, standpoint on what's going on. And we are open to tell them any concerns or any what's going on in the house. But I'm sure it happens a lot because it happened to me where we're threatened by our foster parents. I was threatened by my foster parents. It was like, you better not tell what goes on in this house. Because if you do, when they leave, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So you as a kid, you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want that to happen. So you keep your mouth shut and you smile and say everything is okay.
And did you ever open up? Was there anybody you ever opened up to that you felt comfortable with as a child? Was there a mentor, teacher, coach, anybody?
I opened up to my teacher. She noticed that something was wrong with me. And she had a talk with my foster mother, and I regretted that because that was a bad night for me when I got home. And so once I did that, I did not do it again. But my teacher, she knew uh, what was going on, and so she tried to be as supportive as she could. She said, "Do you want me to report this?" And I said, "Please do not," because again, I didn't want my foster mother to retaliate, and I didn't want her to retaliate with my little sister.
Now,
So it took a lot of fear.
was this the first foster parent that dropped you off, or was this the second foster parent that was abusive?
The first foster parent.
The first foster parent. So did your sister, did she suffer abuse as well?
She did not. This foster mother of mine, she had a saying that girls were special, and she did not like boys. She did not like men. And as a kid, I didn't understand that, but as I got older and I realized that, hey, she was divorced and she didn't have a great relationship with her ex-husband, I said, I see now. And now that I'm a grown man, now I see. I believe that she was hurt by a man. And she just, when she was hurt by him, she just put it out on all boys. She used to always say girls are special. And she even had a sign above it, girls are special.
That's actually common, even with co-parenting where for me, you can't hate where a child comes from, right? Um, and because if you choose to do that, you choose to hate that child. Because regardless of the relationship you had with that other parent, that child has part of that other parent in them. And oftentimes you see single parents, mothers, fathers, and even in your situation, take certain things out on kids that kids should not have to deal with. And so I always say, you can dislike a person's behavior, but if you choose to have hate in your heart for anybody, you're going to take it out on a child that's with you, especially if they remind you, in your case, of someone that was hurtful, or a single parent that is going back and forth with a kid. Because kids, they really, our foundation of love starts at home, and we grow up and we have this brokenness when the foundation is broken. And so for you, you have such an incredible story because you made it out of the foster care system. You're in the army, you're doing amazing. Um, and it looks like you're an amazing father as
Thank you.
well. So, it's been great to follow you on TikTok and to see those things, but this representation and these conversations need to be had,
They
because
definitely need to be had.
we're seeing a lot more of children in foster care, and we're also seeing a lot of more children without their parents that don't have people to come and step in to take care of them, especially during COVID, because a lot of people had passed away. A lot of families, kids had lost their parents, and so it was important for me to have this discussion. And so, what was the healing journey and process for you after you left, became emancipated, and went off to the army? What was the turning point for you?
There was a lot that happened in between that made it uh, slightly difficult for me because going through the physical, mental abuse, verbal abuse in the first foster home, adoptive home, where I was locked in the basement, deprived of food, um, deprived of being able to participate in any sports. She did not want me to be happy at all. And that kind of messed me up a little bit growing up because I just didn't understand what I was doing wrong, for her to continue to do that to me. Um, and I didn't understand why she kept doing it to me. I was getting honors in school. I was a straight A student. I would bring home trophies and she would snap them in half in front of me, throw them in a trash bag, and throw them in the closet. She was never proud of me. And in my head, I always said, well, maybe next time I got to try harder. And I kept trying harder and she did not like it. So when she gave me up after I started fighting back and started saying, stop talking about me, don't say this about my mother, don't say this about my grandmother, I was put into another foster home. And that was a culture shock for me because here I am, a city boy, and I got moved to the country, and my foster parents were Caucasian, and I'd never lived in a home with Caucasian people before. I had nothing wrong with them. I had nothing against them. It's just a culture shock for me. The closest thing that I had to a Caucasian person was school teachers or seeing people like at school or something. But living in a home, it was just a culture shock for me. Being in a country where you see nothing but fields and trees and animals and stuff, it was just a culture shock for me. So dealing with being separated from my little sister, dealing with the abuse that I went through for 7 years, 7+ years, and then going to that, it was just a lot to handle. But I'm thankful that I was able to push through it because I told myself that, hey, when I become a parent myself, I'm going to ensure that my kids never go through this. I'm going to ensure that other people don't go through this because I could allow that to break me. I could allow that to mold me into somebody that I'm not, or I could allow that to motivate me, to push me, to push me further in life. And that's just what I continue to do. Um, so I had a plan and I told myself this is what I'm gonna do and I'm not gonna give up. And that's just what I did. Um, I was thankful that I had a praying grandmother. So through it all, my grandmother prayed for me. My grandmother would call me. My grandmother would call and talk to me, and I was like, "Grandma, I'm scared to tell you what's going on because, again, I don't want her listening on the other phone. I don't want to get you involved because everything that I did in foster care, I just was always scared of retaliation from
Mhm.
my foster mother. I was always scared that it was going to involve pull my grandmother in and get her in trouble or something like that. So it's a lot of looking over my shoulder, a lot of it. But again, overall, I just pushed through it and I kept telling myself that, hey, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. And I did. And I'm thankful that I had my second set of foster parents because they knew what I went through. They knew the hurt that I had. They knew that I was a very hurt kid. They knew the abuse I went through, and they were understanding of it. So they were patient with me, and I appreciated that. They were so patient with me. So it went from going through that abuse in the foster home to having to deal with racism in the country. And even then, I'm thankful that I had support with my foster parents. Like they supported me wholeheartedly. They defended me whenever I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this at school," where I used my code as a security blanket. They supported me. So I truly believe that that support got me through. That support really got me through. God got me through, and my grandmother's prayers got me through.
That's an amazing journey and an empowering story for a kids to hear, especially kids in foster care. Um, what, like I said, what advice would you give to kids that are in foster care that may be struggling, that may be going through some abusive situations, you know, being starved and all the things that you went through? What advice do you give kids? Because there is so many kids in foster care.
Right. My advice would be to tell them, don't give up. Do not let somebody tell you what you can and what you cannot do. But ultimately, do not give up. Stay encouraged. If you fall, get back up. Get back up. It's okay to fall sometimes. It's okay to feel sad sometimes, but don't stay in that sad place. Do not stay in that sad place. Do not allow that situation that you're going through to mold you into somebody that you know you're not. Do not. Surround yourself with positive people, people that care about you, people that want to see you succeed and help you succeed. And if they don't want to do any of those things for you, keep them far away from you. Keep them far away from you. But ultimately, stay encouraged. Ultimately, do not give up and do not let somebody tell you what you can and what you cannot do. Do not. They have no authority to tell you what you can and what you cannot do.
Absolutely. And I look at people. I tell my kids, we're like plants, right? And we plant a seed, but if you are in the wrong situation, like plants need water, sun, and food and things to survive, right? So if they're in the right environment, they'll blossom into something beautiful. But if they're in the wrong environment, a plant's not going to blossom into what it's supposed to be. So if you remove yourself away from things and people that are hurtful, then you have a better chance at being um, a healthy, having a healthy relationship and being at peace with your past. Now that's hard for a child to do, to just take themselves out of a situation because you're a kid. And you know, children just want love. They just want to be loved. They want to be shown love. They want affection. They want encouragement, inspiration, and all those things. And so I'm glad that in your journey that your second foster parent and your grandmother and through prayer and faith, you made it through the foster system. And, you know, look at you now. You know, you turned out to be absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. And I'm thankful that I had them. I'm thankful for those prayers because in the system, there's so many ways that the system can fail the kids in foster care. And we can't forget about that. The system's there to help you. The system's there to help the kids, but the system fails in so many different ways. There's some success stories, and then there's some not so great stories. That's just the way it goes. And for me, it was more so I was feeling a lot. Well, I was feeling defeated a lot growing up in the foster care, my first foster adoptive home, because the people that were supposed to help me and be there for me, like my caseworkers and police officers, um, they weren't there for me. When I would run away to try to get away from that abusive situation, and I would tell them, hey, she's doing this and that. That was later on in life. Like I say, it started around the age of 12 when I started standing up for myself and say, hey, I'm not tolerating this. I would run away and I would tell them this is what the lady's doing to me. She's locking me in the basement. She's depriving me of food. As you can see, I'm severely underweight. Um, You can go and look at my bed. My bed's not a regular looking bed. Um, they would take me right back. And then when I finally started telling my caseworker, again, my caseworker wouldn't believe me. She said she wouldn't do that. You know, it's not nice to lie. And it's like, I'm not lying. And so when I would try to chime into my other foster siblings that were there with me, they were they were scared of her. And so they were making me look like a liar. And they were like, no, she don't do that. I'm like, okay, they're definitely still scared. And so again, the people that were they're supposed to be there to help me, like my caseworkers and police officers, they wouldn't help me. So I'm sure that happens still to this day where kids are reaching out, asking for help, and the system is failing them in different ways.
Well, the whole entire country is selling our children right now. So it's foster care, and then with the mass shootings, the gun violence, the abuse, um, domestic violence. I mean, all across the board. Nothing bothers me more than when someone hurts a child because they're so innocent and they didn't ask to be here. And like I said, all they want is love and affection and to feel, they fit in somewhere. And that's a hard thing to go through. And now we're in a situation in this country where parents are scared to send their kids to school. Um, teachers and kids at small ages have to prepare for some type of mass shooting in the building. Um, so we're in a bad place. We're not protecting our children in this country. It's unfortunate. So from foster care to abuse to school, from every aspect, we are not protecting our children as a whole. And so it's important, like I said, for me to have these conversations and representation for these kids because they don't have it. You don't see a cartoon online or on TV that talks about this type of stuff. Now, I will say that Disney has done things in their own way, like with Jungle Book. It basically they adopted, a child.
Right.
But as far as it is able to relate to a child actually being adopted, it's different because it's by animals. And I think Jungle Book, I think he was in foster care too. I'm not really sure, but
No, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think, but there's some things they touched on, but you really don't see them discuss it in a manner that it should be discussed, where a child can say, "Oh, that's me," because even when you watch Tarzan, if you're a child, you don't really. I mean, he was adopted he basically by animals, so that's a little bit different. So you still need that type of representation, which is why I wanted to have these discussions, write these books and discuss it. So I encourage you to start, speaking to kids.
Definitely want to start doing that. And that's actually part of the business that I just started. I want to use that as an outreach. I want to be able to be that light for kids because I know for a fact there's kids out there that are going through what I've been through, if not worse. And if I can be that light of hope for even one person, that's a win to me because you don't know what that one person is going to grow up and accomplish. You do not know, and because of you standing up and because of you saying words of encouragement to them, you don't know what that's going to spark in them. You do not. So to me, I think even one person at a time, reaching out to even one person at a time, that's a win. That's a win
Mhm.
because you just don't know what that person's going to grow up and accomplish. You just don't.
No, and you're absolutely right. And so you can't look at it as a whole that, it's impossible for one person to help everybody, help all children. But like you said, if it encourages, inspires one child to be able to make it to a point where you are through the foster care system, and things like that is a win, like you said. So I will be following you and making sure that we stay in touch. And anytime that I can come out and speak to kids, I will start doing that myself and reading to kids about these specific books that I wrote. And so I want to thank you so much for coming on and having this candid conversation with me today. about the foster care system. And is there anything else you would like anyone to know before we, close today with our interview?
I would like any current foster parents that are out there that are trying to be there for children is to listen to these kids. Um, Take 5, 10 minutes out their day and just ask them how their day was. And don't say that you care about them, because anybody can say, I care about you. Anybody can say, I love you. But when you say, I care about you and I love you and I want what's best for you, show it. Show it. Have those conversations with the kids. Let them know that you care about them. Let them know that they are loved, because they already know their situation. A lot of them that are old enough that are in foster care still, they know their situation. They know they're in foster care. They know they're not in the ideal situation. So it helps and it goes a long way when they see that you want to take time out of your day and ask them how they feel. Ask them how their day was. Ask them what you could do better. It goes a long way, because like I said, they already know their situation. And the fact that they know that you care and you want to be the best parent that you can be for them, it goes a long way.
Absolutely. And I do want to tell you that one of the voice characters on the cartoon, hopefully you have time to watch it. You can watch it with your son. She actually is a foster mother. She is great. She plays the mom of Danny. She is an amazing person. She has a beautiful family, her and her husband. So I will be also talking to her and her I think she's at 7 kids now, I'm not sure. And
Wow.
so yeah, and she makes time to do the cartoon to be the voiceover. She's also an actress, and then she works with the adoption agencies and things in Ohio where I'm from. And so I'm absolutely so proud of her. She is absolutely amazing. And so hopefully one day I can go on that journey. I've been looking into it. So I want to thank you so much for coming on, Philip, and empowering us today and telling your story. I appreciate it. And we will be looking for you as a speaker, working with kids, and hopefully maybe one day you decide to write a book. I'll have you back on my book fair.
I'm excited. I've been wanting to write a book and I actually started writing it. And I just tend to be the type of person where I can't say something in a sentence, in one sentence. I got to turn one sentence into a paragraph.
Hmm.
So like, this is probably gonna be a long, long book that could be, downsized. And so I did start writing a book, and I just haven't started typing it yet. But when I do write the book, I will let you know about it. I really will.
Yes, and I will have you back on to get an update of where you are in your book on my book fair. So thank you so much, Philip, for coming on today. And you've had an amazing journey, and look at you, you made it out. And
I made it.
so, yes, you made it. So I'm super proud of you for everything that you've been through and being able to give back to these kids. So thank you so much for coming on today and talking to me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.